Welcome to Going Solo. I'm Rick, and this series is all about single-player board games, and we'll be starting with my all-time favorite, Final Girl, published by Van Ryder Games. I'll put a link to this game as well as a link to the Series 3 Kickstarter in the description below. In this game, we jump into the role of everyone's favorite slasher movie trope, the Final Girl, saving helpless victims, searching for weapons, and facing off against a ruthless killer. But before I start playing, I wanted to go over how to play, so that you can follow along with me. So settle in, and let's learn how to play Final Girl. To play Final Girl, you need two things. The first is a core box. This box contains all of the pieces that you need to play the game that aren't specific to a killer or a location. It also does not contain the Final Girl stat cards. Those come in the feature films, which we'll talk about in a moment. So let's open it up and see what is inside. First, we have a rule book, obviously. This will describe the rules to you. If you have any questions, this is a great resource for that. But we're going to set it aside for now because I'm going to be going through all of that. Next, we have our player board. It is double-sided. The side that has a red background is Extreme Horror Mode, if you need to make the game a little harder for yourself. But for this series, we will be playing the standard mode. It has a circular tracker in the middle where you can track your horror level. There is a time tracker around the edge of that. A space for you to place dead victims when they are killed. And a space over here to keep track of your health tokens. It also describes each of the 5 phases of play. And there is a spot showing you where your items in your hand, items in your backpack, and your Final Girl are placed around the board. Now, under that, opening the box up, we have all of our pieces. We have these heart tokens, which are your health. We have these small meeples. Most of them are yellow, but there are 3 that are not. They are blue, orange, and white. Those are for special victims, which there are cards for those that you may see throughout the game. We have our final health token, which I'll describe in more detail shortly. We have 6 dice. We have a set of action cards. We have these tracking markers. We have a Final Girl meeple, as well as 2 killer meeples. One of the killer meeples is used to track your horror level on your game board. The other is used to indicate where the killer actually is. We also have these 3 tokens, which correspond to 3 overflow boards that are in the box here. And these are for if a space on your map gets overly crowded, you can set one of these boards out, put the token in that space, and then move all of the victims to that overflow board to keep your board a little bit more clean. So that's what you get in the core box. So next, we're going to talk about the second product you'll need. The other product you need to play the game is at least 1 feature film box. There are 5 of these that were released with Series 1, 5 that were released with Series 2, and another 5 coming with Series 3. Each feature film box contains a killer, a location, and 2 Final Girls. So let's look inside. We're going to start with the killer side. In this case, we're looking at the Happy Trails Horror. The box is magnetic, and the top of it completely comes off, revealing your killer's game board. For the Happy Trails Horror, we have Hans the Butcher. And I took them out of here, but we also have a slip of paper that tells you the components of the game, and on the back if there are any special rules for this particular killer. Hans doesn't have any, but some other killers do, and we will go over those as we encounter them. You'll notice that I do have the Hans miniature in here. Again, these do not come with the feature film. They are a separate purchase, and they do not come painted. So you'll see several cards in this deck that comes with the killer page. Obviously, the first one, this is our final girl, or one of our final girls. This is Lori. It is a double-sided card. The first side shows how many victims you have to save to unleash your power, and then the back side shows you what your power is. The killer also comes with a deck of terror cards. It will come with either 3 or 4 finale cards, which have the top half of the picture that is on the killer's board. And it comes with 3 or 4 dark power cards, which is the bottom half of the killer's board. This is the entire setup for what comes with the killer in the feature film. So let's put these away for the moment, and we will look at the location side of the box. I do suggest when you open the boxes, you can move your Final Girl cards to your core box, or if you have the franchise box, you can move it to the cast and crew box. So now, on the opposite side of the franchise box, we have a different cover and a location. This is Camp Happy Trails. Again, the box is magnetic and comes away as your map for your game. Inside, once again, there will be a piece of paper that details your components and any special rules that this particular location has. And there will be a tray with your components inside. Again, I have the vehicle minis for this series. Camp Happy Trails has a speedboat. These minis do not come with the game. They are a separate purchase. And then you'll have any tokens that you need for this particular map. You'll have your second final girl, Reiko, I think is how you pronounce it. But she has a different set of requirements for her final power. And on the back you see her final power. Location also has some terror cards. These will be mixed with the killer's terror cards to create a terror deck of 10 cards. We'll get to that in a moment though. We also have event cards, which you can draw when prompted to have certain things happen during the course of your gameplay. It can either throw a wrench in your plans or help you. There is a deck of item cards, and then there is a set of setup cards. You will only use one setup card per game. So that is all of the components of the game. So now let's move into actually setting up the game. So let's get into setup. You'll take your killer and your location boards and place them side by side on the table in front of you. And your dashboard goes under the killer board, like so. It's important to mention that Final Girl is a modular system, so you can mix and match the locations and killers and Final Girls that you use to whatever combination you want. Each killer will work just as well in any location, and vice versa. So here's how you set up your boards. And let's start with getting the killer ready. Oh, that's the wrong box. That's the location box. I've taken out the trays just because it's a little bit easier that way. We are going to be using Lori as our final girl. So she goes in the spot right below your killer board here so you can keep track of her. We're going to get out the tarot cards and set them aside for the moment. And we're first going to look at our dark power cards. Again, these are the cards that have the bottom half of the killer's picture on the back of them. You're going to shuffle these and choose one at random. And it will cover up the bottom half of the killer's picture. The rest of these can go back in the box. We only use one of those per game. Next, we're going to move on to the finale cards, which we are also going to shuffle. And randomly select one, and it goes at the top half, covering up the killer's portrait. Now we're going to put these back. Again, we only use one of those per game. From our core box, we will take out our Bloodlust tracker, which is this little circle red tracker, and place it on the bottom spot of the Bloodlust tracker. So let's talk about the Bloodlust tracker for just a moment. Certain events will, such as killing victims, will cause the killer's bloodlust to increase. As it increases, its speed and attack power increase, and sometimes it increases the horror level or reveals the dark power, which is here. This always starts at the lowest spot on the board. Alright, let's also get out our time tracker, which is this hourglass token. It starts on the 6 of our time track over here, and it will always reset there at the end of each round. And we'll get into that in a moment, how that actually works. Now we're going to take out our final health tokens. All of the black final health tokens, and put the 2 white final health tokens back in the box. Turn all of the black final health tokens to where the +1 dice symbol is showing, and mix them up. And then you're going to choose one at random, and it goes in this little circle at the bottom of the killer board. Select another one at random, and it's going to go in this top circle on the final girl board. And we will put these back in the box without looking at them. Now, in the top left-hand corner of the killer board, you see 2 numbers. One of them is your starting horror level. So you'll take your spare killer meeple and place it on that number. In the case of Hans, it's 4. Under that, you will see the killer's starting health. This token counts as 1, so we need to add 11 health tokens to the bar over here. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11. So we put those over here. I normally try to do it much neater when I'm actually playing the game, but for the purposes of this, we will just throw them over here so that we can move on to the next phase of setup. Our final girl card also has a starting health level, which is right here. Again, the final health token does count. Since Lori has 5 health, we need to add 4 health tokens to her side of the board. You want to keep your health tokens, your victim meeples, your dice, and other tokens handy. And let's move our killer tray aside because we don't need it anymore right now, but we do need the location information, or the location tokens. So we're going to just set out our location tokens, just have them within easy reach as well. And we've got our terror cards here. But before we do our terror cards, let's go ahead and set up everything else. Let me move this because I need this space. So over here on the right side of the board, we are first going to shuffle our event cards. We're going to shuffle these and place them in a deck beside the board here. Then we'll shuffle the setup cards. We'll choose one at random, and it goes above the board here. The rest of these can go back in the box because we will not be using them for this game. Then we're going to shuffle our item cards, and we are going to deal out 3 decks of 4 cards. The rest of the item cards can go back into the box. And then place one of these 3 decks above each location at the top of your board here. For Camp Happy Trails, we have the cabins, the docks, and the utility shed. These make up the 3 locations that we would be able to search throughout the game. Now our terror cards, we're going to shuffle together both the killer and the location terror cards. Shuffle them together really good. And they do have symbols on them to show which pack they come with so that you can sort them very easily when you're putting the game away. We shuffle those up really good. And then we're going to create a deck of 10 of those. The rest of them can be put back in the box. We'll set those over here beside our location board as well, so that we can easily draw from those. Alright, next we're going to take our item cards. Sorry, not item cards, action cards. Now these we don't need to shuffle, because we can always see what they are. We're going to first pull out the 6 that have a 0 cost, which is the cost in the lower right hand corner, is their time cost. So we're going to find our 0 cost cards. There should be 6 of those. And that will be our starting hand, so we will just set it aside for now. The rest of them we will lay out beside our killer and final girl board here, and this is called the tableau, which is our basically where we can buy each of these cards from. And I like to sort them in ascending order by cost. Well, I like to group them. I guess sort them is not the right word. I like to group them ascending by cost, starting here and moving outward. You will buy cards on each turn to put into your hand. And of course, the 0 cost cards are your starting hand. So let's just put those right down here. All right. So now that we've got our tableau set up, we've just got a couple more steps to finish setting up the game. First, we'll turn over our setup card, and this is going to show us the location of each of our victims, how many are in each location. It's going to show us our final girl starting location and our killer starting location. And we will still want to keep these close in case any new victims are added, or we need anything else from that particular box. We can put the setup card back above the board now that we are set up. And the last thing we need to do before we set up is reveal the top item card from each deck. And we reveal and resolve the first event card. So that's the game setup, and now we're ready to play. I believe that's everything. That is how you play Final Girl. So again, links to purchase the game and to their Series 3 Kickstarter, which is going on now, are in the description. There are some special things that you can only get during the Kickstarters. So anyway, that's how you play Final Girl, and hope you enjoy. Let's go through what each of the action cards do. There are several types of action cards. We'll start with the 0 levels. So there are 2 focus and 2 walk, and then there is 1 weak attack and 1 short rest. Focus will allow you to, in some cases, lower your horror level. Walk allows you to move around the board. Weak attack allows you to attack the killer, and short rest allows you to recover health. There are some cards in the tableau that also have these effects. There is a long rest that allows you to regain more health. There is a furious strike, a critical blow that allow you to attack. There is a sprint that allows you to move more spaces than the walk might allow you to move. We also have other cards such as Distraction, which allows you to lower your horror level, similar to Focus. Improvise, which allows you to succeed more often by making 3s and 4s successes on the dice. We'll talk about that in a moment. Retaliate and Guard are the 2 reaction cards where you can either completely or partially block damage from the killer, or with Retaliate you can block the damage and do your own attack damage. There's also Search. You can search in any of the orange rimmed locations on the board that have the wrench symbol. When you search, you will draw from the appropriate pile of cards. Once you take the top card, unless the instructions specifically say to reveal it, the card under it will remain face down. Also, searching is one of the only 2 times that you can rearrange items in your hand. From your backpack to your hands or hands to backpack. We'll talk about items in just a moment, but to get through these, we also have the Close Call card, which allows you to reroll 1 dice for free by using this card, or you can use this card and spend 2 time, again, we'll talk about that in a minute, to reroll all dice. So those are what the action cards do. Item cards, there are some that do not have a symbol on them indicating that they need to be in your hands to use. Those can be used from the backpack. However, there are other items, such as the knife, that will have this small hand icon on it. Let's try to get that up closer so you can see. It's not focused very well, but it does have a small hand icon there. That means it has to be in your hand to use it. When you draw an item, you can rearrange from your backpack to your hands and vice versa during that round. There are also some cards that have the two-handed symbol, similar to this. That means you have to use both hands for it. You can only have 2 one-handed items or 1 two-handed item in your hands at a time. So that's a short description of the item cards. Each of them have different effects that you can read the card to know what that effect is. So let's get into the phases of gameplay. So the first phase of gameplay is the action phase. In this phase, you'll play cards. So for example, let's say we want to walk. We want to move. So we will play that card and we will roll dice. The horror tracker over here determines how many dice we roll. Since we started at a horror level of 4, we roll 2 dice. Each dice has 2 blank spots at 1 and 2. 3 and 4 show 2 cards, which means you can discard 2 cards from your hand to turn it into a success. 5 and 6 have a star, which means those are successes. So we would roll the 2 dice. In this case, I got 1 success. On the card here, you'll see there is a no success option. There is a 1 success option, and there is a 2 success option. In the case of 1 success, we move 1 space and we lose 1 time. So our time tracker would go down, but we are allowed to move 1 space. All of the cards have these different sections for the amount of successes you get and what happens for those. When you're moving through the board, for example, if I was in this space and let's say I rolled 2 successes so I can move up to 2 spaces, losing the time. You can take up to 2 victims with you. So I can move them here and then move them here. Take them with me. Any location that has the green exit symbol is an escape. When you are with victims on an escape space, you can rescue those victims. If you rescue the victim, then you choose a spot on your final girl card, you resolve the effect, and then you cover it with the meeple of the victim saved. In this case, I'm covering up a remove horror, so I lower the horror level. If I had covered up this spot, I could have gained 2 time. Covered up this spot, I would have gained health. Saving victims, once your final girl card is full, for Lori that is 6 victims saved, you can flip the card and you reveal your final power. Now, if you are on a search location and you have a search card in your hand, you can play it. And again, that's 1 success. So I would follow the instructions under 1 success, which is take the top item card of your space. This is the utility shed, so I would take the whistle. It doesn't have a hand icon, so I'm just going to put it in my backpack. Any cards you use, you'll place them in a separate discard pile. This continues until either you decide that you are finished with your action phase. If you run out of action cards that you can play, or if you encounter an effect that ends in this red X symbol, which means you have to end your action phase at the end of this card. So that's the action phase. The second phase is the planning phase. This is where you can get new cards, and you buy them with your time, whatever time you have left after any actions you took. This is why you might end your turn before you run out of cards, so that you can keep some time so that you can buy the cards you need. So the cost for each card is in the lower right hand corner. So close call is 1, search, guard, and sprint are 2, distraction and improvise are 3, retaliate, furious strike, and planning are 4, long rest is 5, and critical blow is 6. For the sake of this example, I'm just going to spend all of my points and buy the long rest card. Once you've finished purchasing your cards, your time tracker goes back up to the default value of 6, and your discard pile goes over here into the tableau for you to be able to purchase on the next round. That ends the planning phase. So next is the killer phase. In the killer phase, the killer gets to act. The first thing they do is at the top left corner of their finale card when it is face down. When it is turned face up, those actions will change, and there might be additional things to consider. But for now, they can target either the final girl or a victim and attack. No movement. So they have to already be in the space of somebody to be able to attack them. The victims only have a 1 health point, so if they get attacked, they die. If they die, bloodlust goes up. If the final girl is the target, then you look at the attack power of the killer if they are in your space. You look at the attack power of the killer, and you would remove that much health from your health pool. In this case, however, the killer can't do anything. So the next part of the killer phase is to draw a terror card. I need a little bit more space here. So we draw a terror card. In this case, it's that girl. What's her name? She can help save us, or she can help us. And it gives you instructions. Place 2 new victims in the space where you started the game. So we would grab 2 new victim meeples. And it looks like I started the game at makeout point based on our setup card. So the 2 new victims would start at makeout point. Next, it increases the horror level back up to 4, and a new event is revealed, which is Death Wish. During the upkeep phase, move the victim closest to the killer 1 space towards it. Do not count victims currently in the same space as the killer. So that's something that we do in our upkeep phase, and then that terror card gets discarded. Once all of that is resolved, we move to the panic phase. If the killer has killed a victim during this turn, any victim still in its space, panic. So for example, if it was here, both of these victims would panic, and we would roll a dice for each one of them. So we've got a 5 and a 6. So the northern location is marked 4 and 5, so 1 victim would flee that way. And the southern direction is marked 6, so this victim would flee that way. If the number that you roll is not listed, then the victim stays where it is. That's the panic phase. Finally, we get to the upkeep phase. The first thing we do is, if all of the terror cards have been revealed, then the finale starts, and we flip over the finale card. If, by chance, the dark power has also not been revealed yet. We flip that as well. So now you will see the killer has different actions at the start of its turn that it would do. And the next part of the upkeep phase is this is the other time that you are allowed to rearrange between your backpack and your hands. So you can move things in either direction, from backpack to hands or from hands to backpack. And then we resolve any events or cards that tell us to do something during the upkeep phase, such as this that tells us that one victim moves one space closer to the killer. Now you'll see we do have two victims here, two groups of victims that are equidistant from the killer. So in cases of a tie such as that, then we will use the group that has the larger number. So it will move one space closer to the killer. If we had tied groups, where two are here, they're both equidistant from the killer, then we have three options to resolve a tie in this way. It is suggested that you choose one of these prior to playing the game and then always resolve in that manner. The first option is Infinite Evil. We resolve in a way that results in the worst outcome for the final girl. The second is Abject Realism, where we resolve in a way that results in the most realistic or thematic outcome. And then we have the Never-Ending Hilarity. Resolve in a way that results in the funniest outcome. So we would decide one of those three and use that to determine which group of victims we would take one from to move. This also works when determining who the killer is targeting. If he's targeting a victim, you use the same rules in case of ties. So, we would move one victim one space closer to the killer, which in this case puts it in the killer's space. And that is the entire 5 phases of a round in Final Girl. A couple more things to note. As I said, if a victim is attacked, they are immediately killed, and you can put them in the dead zone on your player mat. And the Bloodlust tracker goes up by 1. If a victim dies in any manner, Bloodlust tracker goes up regardless of if the killer killed them or if they were killed in a different way. Now, let's say that we are down to our final health token. So we take away all of our health. We've been hit. We'll take away some of Hans's too. We've hit him a couple times. But we are down to our final health token. When you are down to your final health token, or when the killer is down to theirs, you add 1 dice to your roll. So you would now get to roll 3 dice. If you heal, that extra dice goes away. If you are both down to your final health token, then you would add 2 extra dice. And if either is healed, those that extra dice for that person goes away. So in this case, with our horror at level 4 and our both down to be our final health tokens, we would be rolling 4 dice for every card. So what happens when your final health token is taken away? Whether it's the killer or the final girl, when your final health token is taken away, it absorbs the entire attack. So no attack flows over past this. If an attack would take your final health token, you will flip that health token, and it will either be blank or it will have 1, 2, or 3 hearts. Both of these are blank, but I will show you an example here of 1, 2, and 3 hearts. So if the final health token contains hearts on it, the game's not over. You would replace that token with one of the white final health tokens, which are the same on both sides, and then that will be one of your remaining health, and then you will add health tokens for however many remaining you had. So, for example, if your final health token was a 3, you would use a white final health token and then add 2 additional health underneath that. If your final health token is blank, that means that you are dead. If the killer's final health token is blank when it's taken, that means they are dead. This results in, obviously, the end of the game, either winning if the killer dies, or losing if the final girl dies.